Hello friends, welcome back to i-TUTOR NCERT series. Today we are going to discuss Class 7 Geography NCERT Chapter 3 Our Changing Earth. First, the lithosphere is broken into a number of plates known as lithospheric plates. Okay, so what is lithosphere? We already discussed lithosphere in the last class. So what is lithosphere? Comment below. So the lithosphere is broken into a number of plates known as lithospheric plates. Okay, lithosphere is consists of the land. Okay, it contains the land area. So that is called a lithosphere. So the lithosphere is broken into a number of plates known as lithospheric plates. These plates move around very slowly. Okay, so these plates are also moving just a few millimeters in each year. So they move just a few millimeters each year. This is because of the movement of the molten magma inside the earth. Okay, we already discussed about the molten magma inside the earth. So this molten magma inside the earth move in a circular manner. Okay, so that's why the lithospheric plates also moves. The movement of these plates causes changes on the surface of earth. Okay, so the movements of these plates, okay, they also cause changes on the surface of earth. The earth movements are divided on the basis of the forces which causes them. So the earth movements can be divided on the basis of the forces which cause them. The force which act in the interior of the earth are known as, or it's called endogenic force. Okay, so the force experience or the force which act in the interior of the earth. Okay, the force act in the interior of the earth are called endogenic forces. And the forces that work on the surface of the earth are called exogenic forces. Okay, so the force inside the earth or the force act inside the earth or in the interior of the earth are called endogenic force, and the force experienced outside the earth or the surface of earth is called exogenic force. Okay, look at this earth movements. There are endogenic force and exogenic forces. What are endogenic forces? First one, sudden forces, that is earthquake, volcano, landslides. Then diastrophic forces, that is building mountains. Okay, so these are causes. Now exogenic forces are erosional and depositional forms. What are the things? River, wind erosion, sea waves, glaciers. So these are exogenic forces. Okay, these are the example of endogenic and exogenic forces. Now endogenic forces sometimes produce sudden movements and at the other times produce slow movements. Okay, so endogenic forces can produce sudden movements as well as slow movements. Sudden movements like earthquake, volcanoes cause mass destruction over the surface of earth. Okay, so sudden forces are earthquake, volcano, landslides. These are sudden forces and they can cause mass destruction over the surface of earth. Now a volcano is a vent. Vent means opening. A volcano is an opening in the earth's crust through which molten material erupts suddenly. Okay, so what is a volcano? A volcano is a vent or an opening in earth crust through which molten material erupts suddenly. Look at this picture. So this is crust and this called vent. Okay, and the molten material. Okay, this molten material comes out. Okay, when it come out, it's called lava. Okay, this is magma, and when the magma come out, it's known as lava. Okay, so that is how volcano eruption happened. Similarly, when the lithospheric plates move, the surface of the earth vibrates. Okay, so when the movement happen inside the earth, the surface also vibrate, or the surface of the earth vibrates. The vibrations can travel all around the earth. Okay, so these vibrations can travel all around the earth. These vibrations are called earthquakes. Okay, so this vibration, the lithospheric plates move. When the lithospheric plate move, the surface of the earth also vibrates. So these vibrations can travel all around the earth, and these are called earthquake. The place in the crust where the movement start is called the focus. Okay, so the place in the crust where the movement start is called the focus. The place on the surface above the focus is called epicenter. Okay, look at this. Okay, this is called focus. This area is known as focus. That is where the earthquake occur. Okay, it is the origin of the seismic energy. Here is the earthquake occur. At this point, okay, just straight. Okay, look at this point. Okay, so this point, the place on the surface above the focus. Okay, this is focus, this point is focus, and the place above the surface on the focus. Okay, this is on the surface. This area is called, or this point is called a epicenter. Okay, this point is called a epicenter. This is focus and this is epicenter. Okay, now vibrations travel outward from the epicenter as a wave. Look at this, the vibrations are travel from the epicenter as a wave. Okay, it's travel like a wave. Okay, now greatest damage is usually closest to the epicenter and the strength of the earthquake decreases away from the center. Okay, so normally the greatest damage is close near the epicenter. Okay, the greatest damage is always here. Okay, near the epicenter place, and its strength became decreased when we move from the center. Okay, strength became decreased when we move here. Now, although earthquake cannot be predicted, the impact can certainly be minimized if we are prepared beforehand. Some common earthquake prediction methods adopted locally by people including studying animal behavior, fish in the ponds get agitated, snakes come to the surface. So these are some local predictions. Okay, local animal predictions or local predictions adopted by people. Now, major landforms. The landscape is being continuously worn away by two processes. Okay, so the landscape is worn away by two processes. First one is weathering and second one is erosion. Okay, so the landscape is being continuously worn away by two processes. The first one is weathering and the second one is erosion. Weathering is the breaking up of rocks on the earth's surface. Okay, weathering is the breaking up of rocks on the earth's surface. Erosion is the wearing away of landscape by different agents like water, wind, ice. Okay, so that is weathering and erosion. What is weathering? Weathering is the breakup of the rocks on the earth. Now, the weathered material or the weathering materials are traveled or they are carried by different agents like water, wind and ice. So this is called erosion. Okay, erosion is the wearing away of the landscape by different agents like water, wind and ice. Now, the eroded material is carried away by or transported by water, wind, etc. Okay, and eventually deposited. Okay, so this weathered materials are eroded material or weathered or eroded materials are carried away and deposited by water, wind, ice, etc. This process of erosion and deposition create different landform on the surface of Earth. Okay, so this process of erosion and deposition create different landforms on the Earth's surface. Look at this. Do you know an earthquake is measured with a machine called a seismograph? Okay, so the machine which measured the earthquake is called a seismograph. The magnitude of the earthquake is measured on the Richter scale. Okay, so the magnitude of the earthquake are measured on the Richter scale. An earthquake of 2.0 or less can be felt only a little. Okay, so it's not that much big. But an earthquake over 5.0 or more than 5 can cause damage from things falling. Okay, so that's all. Now, work of a river. The running water in the river erode the landscapes. Okay, so the running water erode the landscape. When the river tumbles at steep angle over very hard rock or down a steep valley side, it forms a waterfall. Okay, when a river tumbles at a steep angle over very hard rocks or down a steep valley side, it forms a waterfalls. As the river enters the plain, it twists and turns, forming large bends known as meanders. Okay, so when the river enters the plain, it twists and turns, forming large bends, and these are called as meanders. Due to continuous erosion and deposition along the sides of the meander, the ends of the meander loop comes closer and closer. In due course of time, the meander loops cut off from the river and forms a cut-off lake, and this is called oxbow lake. Okay, so the first one is meander and now oxbow lake. At times, the river overflows its banks, this leads to the flooding of the neighboring areas. As it floods, it deposits layers of fine soil and other materials called sediments along its bank. So this leads to the formation of a flat, fertile floodplain. Okay, the raised banks are called levees. Okay, next one is levees. As the river approaches the sea, the speed of the flowing water decreases. Okay, so when the river approaches the sea, the speed of the water decreases. River begins to break up into number of streams called distributaries. The river becomes so slow that it begins to deposit its load. Okay, so the river deposits its load. Okay, each distributary forms its own mouth. The collection of sediments from the all mouths are called a delta. Okay, so we know the Ganga Brahmaputra plain forms a delta. Okay, come on, which is the delta? Now look at this picture. This is levees. Okay, the floodplain, and this is meander. Okay, meander is carved on. Okay, this is meander, and the meander gradually change into oxbow lake. Okay, so this is oxbow lake. Now, work of sea waves. Now we discussed about the river, and now it's sea waves. The erosion and deposition of sea waves gives rise to coastal landforms. Okay, it gives rise to coastal landforms. Sea waves continuously strike at the rocks. Okay, we know the waves are very pressure one, so they continuously strike at the rocks. So cracks develops. Okay, due to this continuous strike, there may be cracks develop. Over time, they become larger and wider. Okay, over time, these cracks become larger and wider. Thus, hollow-like caves, okay, hollow-like caves are formed on the rocks. They are called sea caves. Okay, look at this picture. Okay, first normally it was a rock, but due to the process of waves or due to the continuous strikes of waves, it become a sea cave. Okay. All these cavities become bigger and bigger, only the roof of the caves remain. Okay, so gradually the caves become bigger and bigger and only the roof of the caves remain, thus forming sea arches. Okay, and thus forming sea arches. Look at this. Okay, only the roof is here. Okay, the roof remain here and all other parts are gone. So this is called sea arches. First one is sea cave, then the sea cave change into sea arches. Now, further erosion breaks the roof and only walls are left. Okay, then again the erosion happens and which break the roof. Okay, and only walls are left. These wall-like features are called stacks. Okay, look at this. This is stacks. It's a wall-like feature. Okay, so first one, sea cave. First one, sea cave. Now, sea cave change into sea arch. Okay, sea arches. Then again erosion happen. Then what is the final one? It's called stacks. It's a wall-like structure. Stacks. It's a wall-like structure. Okay. Now, the sea waves deposit sediments along the shore, forming beaches. Okay. They are not only before that, the steep rocky coast rising almost vertically above seawater is called a sea cliff. Okay, so the steep rocky coast rising almost vertically above the seawater is called a sea cliff. Then the sea waves deposit sediments. Okay, we discussed about the erosion of sea waves, but they also deposit sediments along the shores and it forms beaches. Okay. Now, work of ice. Glaciers. What are glaciers? They are the rivers of ice which to erode the landscape by bulldozing soil and stones to expose the solid rock below. Glaciers carve out deep hollows. Okay, so the glaciers also carve out deep hollows. As the ice melts, they get filled up with water and become beautiful lakes in the mountains. The material carried by the glacier, such as rocks, big and small, sand and silt get deposited. These deposits forms glacial moraines. Okay, so this deposit forms glacial moraines. Now work of wind. Okay, we discussed about the work of river, work of waves, and work of ice. Now, work of wind. An active agent of erosion and deposition in the desert is wind. Okay, so wind is the active agent of the desert. Okay, which helps for the erosion and deposition. In deserts, you can see rocks in the shape of mushroom. Okay, in the desert area, we can see the rocks in shape of mushroom, commonly called mushroom rocks. Okay, so due to this shape, we commonly call it as mushroom rocks. Winds erode the lower section of the rock more than the upper part. Okay, so what is the shape of mushroom? Say narrow base and wide upper part. Okay, so how this process happened? The wind erode the lower section of the rock more than the upper part. Okay, the wind erode the lower section. Okay, this is the lower section of the, so the wind erode the lower section. Okay. Now, therefore, such rocks have narrow base and wider top. Look at this, narrow base and wider top. When the wind blows, it lifts the transport sand from one place to another. When it stops blowing, the sand falls and get deposited in low hill. Okay, low hill-like structure. These are called sand dunes. Okay, so when this wind eroded these materials and they carry with them. Okay, so when the speed of the wind reduces or when the wind starts, gets stops, what happened? The sand materials or the sand fall down. Okay, and they form a hill-like structure that is called sand dunes. Okay. When the grains of sands are very fine and light, the wind can carry it over very long distance. Okay, the sand grains are very fine and lightweight, so the wind can carry it over long distance. When such sand is deposited in large area, it is called loess. Okay, so when the sand is deposited in large area, it is called loess. Large deposit of loess found in China. Okay, so the large deposit of loess are seen in China. Okay. This is sand dunes. Okay, so that's all about this chapter. If you have any doubts, you can comment below. For more videos, do like, share, subscribe.